Hello and welcome to our webinar on preparing a plan for your animals if you are unable to care for them. We're here with attorney Debra Voda-Hamilton of Hamilton Law and Mediation in New York, and Debra specializes in mediation for people over animals. I'm your moderator, Jenny Kashnick. I'm president of the Gray Muzzle Organization, and we provide grants to animal shelters and rescues nationwide for senior dog programs. And our presenter today, Debra Hamilton, she's published some books and she has lots of resources on this topic today. One of her books is Preparing for Your Pet's Care, and she has another one, How to Use Mediation to Resolve Conflicts Over Animals. So I'll give you her website at the end of the webinar for that information. But right now I'm going to hand this over to Debra. Welcome.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Sorry about the phone ring in the background. That's always the way it goes for me. I'm in my office, and the phone's always ringing off the hook. So I want to thank everyone for being here and for really taking the initiative to take the 4 easy steps to care for your beloved companion, because if you don't, then their care, if you can't take care of them short-term, long-term, is sort of left up to the trade winds, and I don't want that to happen to anyone. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to help Gray Muzzle because they do such a wonderful, wonderful thing, helping shelters with programs that help older dogs get adopted, because we all know that those dogs aren't necessarily the first ones that walk out the door. However, they could be the best companions for older people. Later on, I might remember to tell you a story about someone who wanted me to mediate a problem that they had with their mother's dog, and I refused to because I was sort of glad the dog got to go where they went. But that's later on in my storytelling time. So I want to get started because we only have about, I'd say 30 to 45 minutes together, because I want to respect that everyone has a lot to do in their lives, and to sit here and have me talk for an hour may drive you nuts, but it really is something that you want to be part of. You want to really turn off your phones. You want to take your backgrounds away and not answer your emails right now, because your pet's life depends on you paying really close attention to this program. So let's get started. Oh, there we go. Oh, always a problem. There we go. I want to thank you for taking time to listen to this live. I know it's a little bit recorded, but you're here and you're listening to it. I want to make sure that everyone who has any sort of questions feels free to call me. Jenny's going to tell you at the end how to get in touch with me. I am absolutely here to help you. Don't hesitate to write my office, write me an email, and I'll be happy to get back to you. If you stay for the entire webinar, I'm going to make a special offer just to the people who are here attending it under the Gray Muzzle banner, because I love this group so much for what they do for older dogs. There's nothing near and dear to my heart than older dogs. So stay till the end. You won't be disappointed. It'll really be worth your while. So here we go. Who am I? So Jen gave you a little bit of a background on who I was. I was a litigator. I still am. I haven't been disbarred yet, thank you God. However, I decided I wouldn't litigate any longer because it really destroyed people's relationships. I stayed home with my kids for a while. I was a PTA mom, and what I learned as a PTA mother was to play more nicely in the sandbox. I arrived at a back-to-school night with one set of cookies, mine, because I was really not playing nicely in the sandbox, and I found out ways in which to motivate people to be their best selves, so I stopped litigating, and now I only mediate conflicts between people over animals. I step into disagreements and help the people resolve problems that, in a way that helps the animal. I don't litigate anymore, and I also teach people how to speak in a way, especially if they're with shelters or they're with rescues, how to speak to people in a way that brings more people toward you than pushes them away. I know we all feel we have a really good litmus test for who's good and who's bad in adopting dogs or in dropping off dogs, and we might make judgments because we love animals so very much. What I help people do is enable people to feel good about what they're doing, whether you agree with it or not, And if you send somebody away because you don't think they're an appropriate home for one of the gray muzzle kids, you send them away happy. You know, they pointed out things that really I never thought about before. Not that you just sent them away because they weren't an appropriate home, but really talking to them in a way that makes them one of your biggest fans because you didn't enable them to get stuck with something they had no idea they were getting involved with. So it really is a way of embracing everyone and having the dogs go to the right homes and sending people away who might not be the right homes not angry. And that's my biggest mission in life. I do that everywhere, in vet practices and groomers, in kennels, because if you want to send somebody away, just make sure you don't send them away mad. Now with Yelp and everything else, it really makes a big difference. I have owned dogs and horses for over 50 years. I love them. I don't think I could ever live my life without them. And my older guys are really, near and dear to my heart. They are my best friends. When I'm feeling down or when I need to take a break from work, I always take a break with one of my dogs. My horse now lives with a 21-year-old girl, or she's probably about 23 now, and he's doing great. And I get to see him on Facebook all the time because she and I are friends. It was really a huge part of my placing him. So I take care of all my dog's needs every minute and hour of the day. I always believed I would be there to take care of them forever. No one else in my house really took care of my dogs. I used to tell my kids that they were really lucky their mother loved dogs, because the only reason they had so many dogs was because their mother would take care of them. I always felt I could until I broke my ankle in 2013. And I really didn't realize initially what that would mean to the 9 dogs that I had in my house, except that it meant a huge shift in how I thought about the plan I had made for my pets. What I learned that day in 2013 is that my dogs exercise in the backyard. They exit my house to get to their big exercise run from the basement door. I feed them in their kennels in the basement. My family was busy helping me with my broken ankle, and there was really no time for them to take care of my dogs. And unfortunately, the people who I had over a glass of wine set up taking care of my dogs for me were not able to care for my dogs at that time. One had just broken her wrist. The other one had renovated her kennel. There was absolutely nobody there to take care of my dogs. And I went, oh my God, what am I going to do? Luckily, a woman who helps me with them off and on when I'm traveling said she could come to my house. But I didn't even have an agreement with her. I didn't even have a plan with her. But she was nice enough to step into the fray because my husband and my son would do what they could, but they were really taking care of me. So have you ever asked yourself one of these questions? If I don't get home, what will happen to my dog? If something happens to me, where would my bird go, especially if you have parrots, which are incredibly long-lived birds? Who would care for my sick cat if I didn't get home? And how do I find someone to take care of my horse? I'm asking you these questions even though you're gray muzzle and most of you probably have dogs. These are questions that all pet owners need to ask themselves, because don't call your neighbor on the day you need help, because they will do their best to help you, but in all fairness, that might not be something they can do right then and there. Sorry about that. So you want to make sure that you make a plan beforehand. When you ask yourselves these questions, do you realize you really have no plan? But you tell yourself, my family and friends will step into the void. My plan is in my head and I know what's going to happen. I've talked to people and they will care for my dogs. My family knows how to care for my horses. I have to tell you, I have 2 sons, aged 23 and 26, and I love them to pieces. They have no more idea of how I feed my dogs or treat my dogs than the man in the moon. In fact, before 2013, they really had no idea. After 2013, I have a posted care of my dogs over the sink in the dog room. So if something happened to me, someone would be able to walk in and step into my shoes. even though now I have 3 people in place to step into my shoes, and they have their own personal copy of how to care for my pets. I also have one over the dog room sink so that somebody could come in and do it for me. How many of you have a complete listing of each dog and each dog's care? It's somewhere where somebody can find it easily. Ask yourself if that's something that's available, or is it all in your head? Because mine, before 2013, was completely in my mind. You may want to make plans. You just don't know where to start. That is the biggest issue that I find with people who I speak to. They either have made plans that are in their will, or they don't know where to start, and so they'll start tomorrow. That is the scariest thing for me as a program provider in this area, because no one knows what tomorrow will bring. And our pets depend on us to make this plan, to make sure that they're cared for long-term and short-term. I'm sure if you work with gray muzzle, you know that a lot of the dogs that come through the system have been left off because their owners died, their owners became incapacitated, couldn't care for them, and the family members couldn't care for them. They might feel guilty, they might have, all best interests in mind, but really, when push came to shove, they can't take care of the animal. Now, we can dislike them for that because they had promised their mother. I'll never forget, I was at a shelter event and a woman told me she didn't need to make a plan because she has these 2 kids and they're going to take care of the dogs. And the 2 kids pulled me aside and said, listen, we're not taking care of those dogs. How do we tell her? I said, you have to tell her. And they said, well, we can't tell her because she's going to write us out of the will. This is something you really need to make sure you address with your family in a way that doesn't make them feel guilty or afraid if they say no, they're not going to take your pet. Before I go on, I want to tell you one story that happened to me after I did this presentation at the Women in the Pet Industry Network, which is a wonderful group of women who are in the pet industry. I gave this program, and one woman walked up and said to me what most people say to me after I give my program: I have my plan already done, my kids are going to do it. And about a month later, she called me and she said, I've been thinking about what you said, and wouldn't it be great if I let my daughter know that 3 other people could take my dogs if, in fact, at the time she needed to take my dogs, she couldn't. And I said, that is such a powerful way to speak about that. You take the guilt away. You don't enable people to feel guilted into taking your pet, but rather, yes, I can take your pet, or if I can't take your pet, then these 3 people who you left me information about can take care of your pet. And that makes all the difference in the world. So if you want to make a plan and you don't know where to start, you've come to the right place, because that's what this program starts percolating in your mind. What are the things I need to put in a plan? Who do I need to find? How much money was it going to cost me? This program is going to start you thinking about what it is you're going to need to do. If you have ever said any of these things to yourself, or felt any of these fears, insecurities, or false security, you've come to the right place. I just said that. I know these slides back and forth. I should probably forward them a little quicker. But you've come to the right place because it is so important for you to know exactly what you're going to do with your pets for your pet's well-being. I hold this webinar for people just like you who love their pets and who want a plan for their short and long-term care, because you want someone to be able to care for your pet if you have a broken leg like I did. You want to have someone be able to care for your pet if you've been diagnosed with cancer or you've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. What makes people think that I don't want my dog with me while I am fighting the ravages of cancer, or I am slowly losing the ability to recognize things? I'll always recognize my dogs. My dearest girlfriend has a mom who has dementia, and she brings the dogs to see her mom all the time, and the only thing that grounds her mother is the red dog, the Irish setter. She comes right back to where she is. She talks about things that were part of their lives, because these dogs really bring you back to where you need to be. So if you're suffering from something that is debilitating, and someone can take care of your pet for you on their day-to-day needs, why would you want to give up your dog? It's easy to do, but again, you have to make a plan. And right now you're sitting there going, I have no idea how to go about this, Deborah. This is like beyond me. It's my kids, it's my husband, it's my mother or my father if you're younger. Well, yes and no, because you got to give them a break. At the end of this webinar, you will start thinking about the plans you want to make for your beloved companion, whoever it is, a dog, cat, bird, horse, snake. I have a friend, Steve Dale, who I love, and he took a picture with his snake. It's a boa constrictor, I think. It's a big snake, and I think his name is Colette. And I wrote him, and I said, do you have a plan for Colette? He goes, yes, it's in my will. And I went, need more? And he goes, well, she's pretty old right now, and so she's good. And I'm like, I get it. And I get this all the time, and I love people who make plans for their pets in their will. I love them because they've made a plan. And now I need to help their attorneys and them step outside the will and make that initial plan that will take over. Even if you need your will, even if you have passed away, you need an interim plan because it takes between 6 months and a year for your will to be probated. So you want to make sure you have money available to take care of your pets immediately. So I'm going to help you know what plan you need to make and how to go into your attorney and say, listen, this is what I need. I have these dogs. I only have this certain amount of money, and this is what I want to do. And you'll be able to do it with attorneys because I'm now teaching attorneys how to broach the subject with their clients, because attorneys said, well, nobody wants to spend any money on a pet trust. Nobody wants to spend any money doing this. I said, because you don't enable them to understand the reason they want to do this, what they want to do, especially with all of you being part of Gray Muzzle. You know that it's so imperative to take care of your older dogs or take care of any of your dogs that live with you. This webinar will have you asking the questions you need to ask of your attorney, of your family, of your friends, of your acquaintances, of the pet sitter, of the groomer, of the kennel person, because you want to know who's going to be able to step in your shoes long-term or short-term. And we're going to give you examples of possible issues that you may be faced with and the answers to those issues so that you can find the best way to care for your pets long-term, short-term. This webinar helps people understand what they already know and know what they don't know. So you have to make a plan for your pet, but you don't know a lot of what I probably just said. You don't know that a will, you have to die in order to get that money out. If you don't make a pet trust outside the will, the money may take too long to get out to take care of your pet. So many things, so many moving pieces, which is why at the end of the webinar, I'm going to let you know how a lot of these moving pieces will be given to you in a way that enables you to take it step by step by step and not be overwhelmed. I sometimes give so much information, and I apologize now because I overwhelm people with, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But please rest assured, that's why you're here. I'm going to give you all this information in easy bite-sized pieces so that you can decide whether or not you want to go forward and make a map plan to navigate the journey your pet takes when you can't care for them. What is the cost to your dog, cat, bird, or horse if you don't plan, if you fail to plan for their future? Your pet could end up with the wrong person. They could end up in a shelter. They could end up on the street. So many people, especially in temperate weather, when they move and they can't take their dog with them, they sometimes leave the dog locked up in the house. Some of you may have read about that in newspapers or heard about it in your neighborhood. You can't even fathom that, but people feel, well, that new owners will feed the dog and maybe keep the dog. And the horrible part is that sometimes things happen that are even worse, and they're put to sleep. Since we have a limited time together, as I said, I wanted to make sure I got this over in about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. I might go on for an hour, and I apologize, but there's just so much information. I want to make sure I give you enough so that you can make a decision on whether or not you want to go forward and work with us and make a plan, or at least work with someone to make a plan for your pet, because it is so very important. However, at the end, I promise to show you how you can take this process further and get more information and make your own map plan, because that's why you're here. You want to make sure you know what you need to have in place for your pet. Are you with me? Have I scared you enough and you're off, or are you still here? I hope you're all still with me, because now comes the fun and easy part. I want you to take a really, really deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. The reason I put this plan together is to make people feel enabled and capable, and to breathe easy about making a plan for their pet, not to scare the pants off of you. That's not my mission. My mission is to say, you can do this. You've got this covered. I'm going to let you in on the easiest way to solve your dilemma. It's the MAP signature program you can work on personally with me. But before we get there, let's go through exactly what it is that will be covered in the signature program. I'm going to tell you the 3 massive mistakes pet owners make that put their pets in jeopardy. One is myopic vision. The other is financial frugality. And the third, and the worst, is the mapless journey. So let's start with myopic vision. What do I mean by that? Well, myopic vision means it's as clear as the nose on your face. Most pet owners live in the here and now. They only see the here and now. They choose to leave unfocused what their plans are for their dog, cat, bird, or horse. I did it before 2013. I said, my kids will take care of it. My husband will take care of it. My girlfriends over a glass of wine will take care of it. If they do plan for the future, it's a little fuzzy. As I said, it's a handshake over a glass of wine. The present is fine. Why do I need to worry needlessly? Nothing's going to happen to me. And at this point, I always say to people who are attending my MAP program, there are fires, there are floods, there are tornadoes, there are hurricanes. There are things that come, and if you don't have a plan in place on how to evacuate your animals, it's better now than it was before Superstorm Sandy, but it's still not great. So you have to make sure you have a proactive plan for taking care of your pets. You don't want to choose to leave unfocused the future plans for your dog, your cat, your bird, or your horse. If you do address it, it's fuzzy. Handshakes over a glass of wine, or family members told they'll be cut out of the will if they don't care for your pet, not a good thing to do. And then there are always the friends and neighbors who volunteer to help to care for your pet. And I was speaking to Jenny earlier, and I said, 9 times out of 10, you talk to your neighbor and they say, sure, I'll take your pet. And maybe they aren't home the day that you need to evacuate because the wind shifted. Or maybe they don't know where your crate is, so they can put your cat in a crate and take it with them. These are things you have to make a plan for. And though you had a conversation, if it's not in writing, it doesn't necessarily ever come to fruition. If this has worked so fine for you, and the present is fine, why am I trying to make you worry needlessly? Because, this might happen, but it's probably not going to happen, so I'm not going to take any sort of initiative to make a really solid plan. The reason you want to make a plan is because you don't want to be myopic. You don't want to just see what's right in front of you and not think about what could happen in the future. The second massive mistake that everyone makes, everyone, even the people who come to my MAP plan, say, Debra, it's too expensive. I don't have money set aside for this. I'll probably need an attorney to draw this up, and they're expensive. And how much do I need to leave in a fund to help my pet? Well, rest assured, it's a pay me now, pay me later kind of thing. If you wait for the rainy day, not going to be a helpful cost because you're going to have to pay the most for everything because of the fact that you didn't make a plan. You can always pull the covers over your head. That works really well. Or you can live in the moment and have positive thoughts. And believe me, I am the most positive person in the world. I always know that things are going to work out for the best. But having said that, I also have a number of contingency plans for removing my 4 dogs. At the time I broke my ankle, I had 9 dogs. Right now I have 4 dogs. So it's really simple. I have 4 crates in my truck. My dogs all go with me, and wherever I go, they go with me. And the last mistake that you make is the mapless journey. Who knows better than you how to care for your companion? No one. Absolutely no one knows better than you. And a lot of times when I do the MAP program, that is the one stumbling block people find so hard to get past. If I can do it, no one else can do it the way I'm going to do it. So there's no one I can appoint to take care of my pets. I told a friend of mine who called to make a MAP plan, and we're working on it with her. She said, but Deborah, there's no one we know that could take care of our pets in a way we want them to take care of. We want them to be taken care of. And I said, well, you are my favorite clients because you want to take the best care of your pets. You don't just want to put something together slipshod. You really want to take the best care of your pets. But let me tell you, your pets will thrive in different situations that are not you, because even if you found the identical clone of yourself to take care of your pets, it's not going to be you. So knowing that, going forward, it might be a little easier to find someone who's going to take care of your pets. There we go. How do you get others inside your head, however, if you're the one who knows everything about your pets? It's not impossible. Who else really knows about their care regimen but you? And as I said, if you don't write it down, you are the only one who knows their care regimen. Is it important to you to assure they have a seamless transition? I know that everyone who's listening to this webinar is shaking their head. Yes, I want my pet to have a seamless transition if something happens to me. Or I want my pet care to be seamless and my pets to stay with me if I simply broke my arm, broke my ankle. I want my pets to stay with me. So if you don't make a plan, that's not going to happen. The reality is, what could happen if you do nothing? Which is what most people do. They just have word of mouth. They do nothing in writing. So basically, they've done nothing that then can be shown as this is what Debra wanted to do if something happened to her. Your pet could be abandoned. No one would have clarity as to your wishes, so conflicts could arise, or things might not get done the way you wanted because no one has clarity as to the wishes. Pets go to people you don't want them to go to. That is the last person on earth I would want to take care of my pet, but I never left anything in writing saying I wanted them to go to Sue instead of Mary. Well, guess what? Mary got there first. The dog's with Mary because you didn't leave a plan. This most serious piece is that the dogs go without their medication. I have older dogs, and we all know that older dogs need their medication more regularly than possibly younger dogs who probably don't need any medication whatsoever except for heartworm and flea and tick care. So you really want to make sure you've made a plan to make sure that your pets get the medication they need. Your pets end up or are returned to a shelter. When I go to shelter events and people have adopted 2 and 3 dogs from a shelter and say they're never going to come back here again, I've rescued them from the worst life, they were abused before, and I sit there and I say to them, have you made a plan? And they go, well, no, my kids are going to take care of my dogs. They know everything. That dog has a greater chance of going back to a shelter than a dog who has a plan waiting to kick in if something happens to you. The cycle completely spins out of control if you haven't made a plan that somebody can follow. So now we're going to follow the 4 critical steps you need to take. They're really easy, but they're 4 critical steps you need to take that can save your pet's life. And especially, I used some of the dogs here. You see the Dobermans. The Border Collies are easy to place. Dobermans are one of those breed-specific dogs that sometimes are more difficult to place. And when I was talking to Jen earlier, I did say that it really breaks my heart when people work so hard to care for the breed-specific dogs like pit bulls or shepherds or the big canine corsos that people misunderstand, and they don't make a plan for their future care because those dogs have like one paw tied behind their back if they end up at a shelter. And they may be the sweetest dogs in the world, but unfortunately, they are of a breed that people don't necessarily go out and adopt as an older dog. And we all know that our dogs don't necessarily act the way they do at home when they're in a shelter situation. The smell, the noise, the fear that they're feeling, the fear that's around them from what the other dogs are feeling, it really doesn't make them the same dog that's sleeping on your couch with you right now as you watch this program. So the reason this program is called the MAP program is because it stands for one of the 4 steps you need to take to care for your pet. First of all, you need to make a plan. You need to address the needs of your pet. You need to appoint caregivers. And you need to publish your plan. There's also an S that goes on the end that I leave out because it sounds funny, the MAPS plan. But the S on the end stands for scheduling a review of MAAP each year. Because if you do, then you will know that the plans you have in place are good for at least another year. All of these steps are crucial to the care of your pet. And this webinar helps you start the process. We're going to go into the M of making a plan in depth today. The plan that sets up the care for your beloved companion, your family member. Some people call them fur babies. Whatever it is that you call your wonderful companion, that's what we're going to start to think about today, is how to make that plan. People with pets believe their kids will take their dogs. Statistics show that dogs left to family members are more likely to be dropped off at a shelter than dogs left to friends and acquaintances. I'm going to say that again because you're probably shaking your head with incredulity that, in fact, my family would drop my dog off at a shelter instead of keeping it. Remember at the beginning I said, remind me to tell you that story about people who came to me. I'm going to tell it now because it really is pertinent in this one point. It was a woman who had an older poodle, didn't take care of its teeth, so its breath smelled really bad. And, it was an older poodle, and she was older, and she passed away. And she'd left money in her will, and her kids knew it, that she'd left money in her will to the person who was going to care for the pet. But nobody wanted it, so they took it to a kill shelter. And 6 months later, when her will was read, the attorney, as he should do, said, I need a death certificate for the dog before I can release the $5,000. So they went back to the shelter to get the death certificate for the dog, who was like 10, and they figured the dog had been put to sleep. And the dog had been adopted by a lovely older couple who had walked in about a day or two after they had dropped it off. The dog had gotten a bath and had a bow put around its neck, and they walked in and said, you're old, we're old, hey, come home with us. Those people got a windfall of $5,000. How many times is that angel going to help a dog get out of a shelter? I mean, you hope it happens every single time, but if you're on this call, you know that it doesn't necessarily happen for all dogs. So I said to these people I would not help mediate that conflict where they wanted to keep the $5,000 because their mother was smart enough to say the $5,000 would go to the person who was caring for Fluffy instead of for the child in my family, because that would have made it a little bit sticky. She just said the person who was caring for Fluffy, and those people got the $5,000. It was phenomenal. And I said I wouldn't help them get that $5,000 back because thankfully these people adopted the dog. So if you think leaving your dog to your family is going to be the best thing for you to do, you may be 100% right, but you really should give them backup. If you're sick, if you're in pain, if you're suffering, they're going to want to be with you. They love you. They love your pets too, but they love you. So if you find someone who can either take the dog long-term or short-term, put it in writing and let them know so they know that they have your blessing to give the dog to someone else who you know to care for because they can't take care of it. The other one is that I don't have money to set up a trust for the dog. Well, you don't need a lot of money to set up a trust for a dog. If you have a will, which you should, it's very easy to piggyback a trust outside the will for the care of your pets. And you don't have to put a lot of money in initially when you create it. You can add $50 here, $100 there. I always say don't put more than $1,000 in the pet trust if in fact you might need it, because $1,000 will transition that dog to the next person. And most of us know that the people who we're going to leave our pets to aren't doing it for the money. They're doing it because they love us and they love our pets. So if you leave them $1,000 for the initial exchange, the initial vet checkup, the initial food, that's a windfall. Most people will take your dog for no money. So if you leave $1,000, it just gives them the ability to take the dog and transport the dog and not be in limbo trying to fund that for you. Leaving funds to the care of your dog or cat in a pet trust is too expensive and will create a financial hardship on you. Not if you do it the way I suggest in my plan, because you really want to make it just a transitional amount of money, not one that is going to keep the care of the dogs for the rest of your life. That could come from your will. The reality is, without a plan, as I said before, your pet might die. They'll end up in an unsuitable home. They might go even to a stranger. And what you will see is they will fail to thrive. They don't have their medication or their food because you haven't left anything for someone to follow. The next major point to address is appointing caregivers. I talked about this before, and in the program, we talk about where to find them, how to get them to get on board, and how to really educate them on the way to take care of your pets. The third step is addressing the needs of your pet. I've gone over that as well, but not as in-depth as I will in the plan, because you might think, well, I just need to tell them how much food my dog eats, what kind of food my dog eats, and the medication they need, and that's it, right, Debra? Well, no. You really need, if you really want to make the best of plans, you need to tell them how they like to sleep, whether or not they're afraid of thunder or lightning, whether or not they get along with another dog in your pack and they should go together, or whether they should always be separate, whether they need dental work all the time because their teeth are really susceptible to decay, or they are strong as an ox and have no problem. These are the kind of things, again, that are in your head that you don't really let people know about in a way they can take care of your pet more fully. And finally, the final step is to publish your plan. So if you've come to the program that we're going to talk about in a little minute, we teach you how to do every single step of the plan, but then the most important piece is to publish it, is to give it to those caregivers, is to give it to the attorney who's drawing up your will and your pet trust, is to give it to your veterinarian. Because if someone walks in who isn't you and has your pet, a veterinarian is within their rights not to treat the pet because you are not the owner. So you have to give one to the veterinarian. And then you have to give one to the caregivers and your family. So everyone knows and are on the same page with what steps you want to take if you can't care for your pets. And if you don't publish that plan with those people you've appointed about those pets you love, then you haven't navigated the journey they're going to take if something happens to you. Earlier, I promised I'd give you as much information as I could in the time together. We're coming up, I think, on almost 45 minutes. So I want to make sure I don't keep you much longer. But I also wanted to tell you about how I could show you to be able to receive more information and help in building your own MAP plan, and to take your plan to the next level, which is really important. I'm sure you have something at home, you've done something great. And if you feel comfortable with your plan, please don't let me make you feel uncomfortable, because that's not my mission here. My mission here is to say, listen, if you'd like to take it to the next level, I'm happy to help you. In fact, to place where you have complete peace of mind is where I want to take you. It is really important. There is much more that we could cover, and many more questions I'm sure you have, in order to have a plan that will keep your beloved fur family member safe. Are you interested in knowing? I hope you are, because this webinar is not meant to make you fearful, but rather to make you proactive, not reactive, but proactive, because you really want to know what's going to happen to your pets. And if you're interested, I'm going to tell you about this wonderful program that I've put together just for those of you on this webinar that Gray Muzzle has put on for the benefit of all of its followers and helpers. Here is the goodie I promised you earlier. I created a program for everyone on this call called the MAP Bootcamp. This program will help you turn today's call and its information into a lasting MAP plan. It provides the protections and safeguards you're going to need to take care of your beloved pet. It's a 4-week program, and I've received really high praise from all the participants who've gone in it through 2016. We actually have one starting every month. I give free webinars, and after the free webinars, we start this boot camp because people really want to take it to the next level and make sure they have their plan in place. Now, we're in November. We have Thanksgiving coming up. We have the holidays coming up. But you can join this boot camp and get this plan done before January 2017. You're here today. I want to support you in taking the next step. I always want to reward fast action and things that people are going to do in order to make sure that they meet the needs of their pets and meet their own needs. and early action will help you get this plan done before the end of 2016. So I'm offering the Gray Muzzle group a chance to participate in the final boot camp all by themselves. I'm not going to do another boot camp this year. I have another webinar for the MAP plan, but I'm not going to offer it. I was really thinking about not doing anything, but since I got this wonderful opportunity to speak to all of you, I said, I'm going to offer the last boot camp simply to the Gray Muzzle attendees, and at a ridiculous discount. All you need to do is write info@hamiltonlawandmediation.com, and in the subject line, don't forget, take out your pens and pencils, I want to attend boot camp. And just write that you want to attend boot camp and that you are on the Gray Muzzle webinar. You will then receive a responding email from my wonderful staff with the link to sign up. If you opt in via this link that you'll receive before November 9th at 7 p.m., you'll find out the fabulous discount Gray Muzzle listeners will receive to participate in this program, and you'll be able to map your plan before the end of 2016. And you'll be able to map your plan for your pet before the end of 2016. The boot camp will meet live as a group on a webinar every Monday. So you can be there or not. It's okay because they're going to be recorded. They start November 14th and they run through December 5th. And they're at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll run for 4 consecutive weeks, and each time we will make sure all your questions are answered, and all the problems you see are addressed so that you don't feel as if you can't make a go of this program. And I stick with everyone until their program is complete, until their MAP plan is complete. So if you don't get it done by the end of 2016, don't worry. I'll still be there helping you finish this plan so that your pets are cared for. I'll be on each one of the calls to give you additional guidelines and information. You'll get templates. You'll get video recordings so you can follow during the week what it is you want to do that'll give you additional information. It really is a fun program. Everybody who's taken it has loved it. And I'm there live on Mondays for an hour, probably usually longer, so that, in fact, people's questions can be answered, because I'm there until everybody's question is answered. If you're watching this webinar, then you realize things don't always work out as we plan. We wish they would. So opt in for your chance to map your plan as a special gift to the Gray Muzzle listeners. Now, this is the end of the program, so I'm going to throw it back to Jen, but I just want to thank everyone who was here for the entire webinar, because quite frankly, you are very serious about making a plan for your pet, and I want to applaud you for taking the time out of your day so that you could make sure that your pet is cared for no matter what happens. Thank you so much for being here. And Jen, I'm throwing it back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deborah, for this valuable information, and thank all of you for taking an interest in this really important topic. So for those of you who can't see your screen, you can get more information and resources on this subject. You can go to hamiltonlawandmediation.com, and the email is info@hamiltonlawandmediation.com. And for more information on senior dogs or the Gray Muzzle organization, you can go to graymuzzle.org. So again, thank you, Deborah, and everyone for listening and caring for your animals, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.